Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's VaultRE training session. Today, we're going to be doing a monthly update. So these sessions will be running once a month, and it's just an opportunity for us to let you know about new releases that have happened within the Vault world. So a really huge benefit of us migrating across to the Vault platform is the fact that we do get a lot more releases and a lot more development happening within the program. So today I'm going to jump in and show you a few items that we have been working on in the past month and things that have been released, just so you know where the product is at. So we're going to start on the desktop and then move across into the app to finish for today's session. The first thing that I wanted to talk about today, which has been a big feature that is especially important for our closed databases, but also important for our open databases, is the upgraded pipeline security. So what you will find now is if you go into a contact and into the pipeline section on that contact, the system will now record who is entering that pipeline date into the system and will lock down the visibility of that pipeline date based on the contact that's put that pipeline date into the system. So what this means is that if we have agents in our office who are noting pipeline dates against contacts, only that agent or anybody who has PA access to that agent would be able to see that pipeline date that correlates to that particular contact. So that is a new feature now released across all of our databases. Any of our super users or settings access users will still be able to see all pipeline dates, and any pipeline dates that have been previously put into the system will still be visible to all. So you will potentially need to go back and just update those to have that new visibility locked down if you wish to. So that's a really huge win for our closed databases. Another big win for our closed databases in the system is the fact that when we are searching now contacts within the system, you can see this happening here. And I think this is actually available as well on open databases, not just on closed databases, but you can see here when I'm searching for the contact, there is actually initials in brackets at the end, and that indicates whose contact that belongs to or who marketing contact 1 is on each of those contacts. So you can see 2 here with JALA, which is Jackie Lang, and 1 here with TAOR, which is myself, Tamara Ortiz. So this is a really useful way for people to be able to tell whose contacts are whose. Obviously, if you're in a closed database, you'll only be seeing your contacts anyway, but anyone who is a closed database administrator would be able to see all contacts in the database. So it's an easy way for you to tell whose contact is who, which is a really cool feature that we're excited that's been released. Another little win, especially around database cleaning, is the auto capitalization that we have now when inserting contacts into the system, looking at name fields specifically. So if I begin typing a name in here now, I did not press capital T there at all. I simply typed in lowercase fully my name, and it's automatically capitalizing that first name. If I then go to add a second part of a name or a hyphenated name, so I'll use my middle name as the example here, it will then also auto capitalize that name as well. So that works in the first name and surname fields, and also over in the partner section as well there. That's really cool. It will help keep our database nice and clean. This also happens now when you are searching. So if I go into my find contact section and I begin typing, it will auto capitalize there as well. So just turning that on, that auto capitalization, just to make our database a lot cleaner for when we're entering data. Little wins are always good. So we also have another win that we've heard actually from a lot of our network about this. And it's the ability when you're sending an email to have multiple attachments to that email. So if I jump into a contact and I'm going to my send email functionality, we do now have the ability to include multiple attachments. So if I wanted to pop some attachments in here, I can select multiple files to pop in here. And as you can see, it's now allowing me to attach 3 files in. So you can now attach multiple attachments to emails. You will find that if the file exceeds the maximum allowed limit, so if it's like a 20 megabyte file or something like that, that's going to prevent it from being able to be received on the other end. It will instead insert it as a link rather than an attachment, but it's not going to prevent you anymore from having multiple attachments there, which is really cool. Beautiful. I'm flying through our updates, so I'm going to try and remember just to slow down a little bit here. I'm going to close this one off. Our next update is around contracts and the filing cabinet. So this really has 2 parts. I'm going to show you in the desktop version what this new contracts ability is all about, but then you'll also see it in practice when we switch across to the mobile app, seeing how it comes into play there as well. So whilst I am in our desktop version, I'm just going to jump into a property that we have available here. So just jumping into the property file. And if I go over to the filing cabinet, there's now a section in the filing cabinet called contracts. So you'll see that that specific folder there looks a little different to all of the other folders. It's got that little marker against it. And what that means is any files that are loaded into this contracts folder are automatically categorized in the system as a contract. And you can also see that down here. So again, just reminding everyone that throughout Vault, you do have these little help and hint pop-ups everywhere you go. So really good for educating yourself if you're unsure about what you're seeing on your screen. But as you can see there, it basically says that all files in these folders are assumed to be contracts. You can also mark a file as a contract. So you don't necessarily have to place it in the contracts file. You can simply go just to your default folder. So you can see I've got a few different files in here. And if this particular file here was the contract, when I click on my little spanner option, I've now got the ability to tick that it is a contract. And when I do tick that it's a contract, as you can see here in the Vault mobile app, open home attendees that are sent that file will automatically be marked as contract sent. And I'll show you that as a live demo when we jump across over into the actual Vault app. What this also means within the system, I'll just save that there so we have a live example that we're working with. But what that does also mean within the system is we have new contract tracking within the vendor report or the owner feedback area. So when I go into my owner feedback section, I now have an area that specifically talks about the contract. And it's really pointing out whether or not a contract has been requested and also whether a contract has been sent. So if I wanted to mark that a contract had been sent or requested, I can actually click on this undefined button now and mark that the contract was requested and also when the contract was sent. However, I will show you how to do this in a bit more of an automatic fashion over in the Vault app when we do jump over into that, but you can work it through in the actual vendor report now in this area as well. The final thing that I did want to show you today in the desktop version is a new trigger that has been, it's actually not one trigger, it's 2, but new triggers that are available for you in terms of processing and automating our data in the system. So if you are an agent, you may not have access to this area, but it is something that you can definitely think about and have a chat with your administrators about. But this, what what this new trigger will do, I'm just going to go to settings and set up automation. If you do have that settings access, you will be able to access this. And when I go into my setup triggers area, it is a date-based trigger. So when I go to add new trigger here, and I'm going down to my date-based triggers, you will see a new trigger that is available in this area. And it is called, sorry everyone, my little Zoom is in the way, so I've just had to move that for a moment there. So you will see that the new triggers are here, X days after contact has been inserted and X days after a contact was last modified. So what would these be used for? Really great example is we can schedule X days after a contact is inserted into our database, could even be on day one, so it could be literally on the day after that they're inserted. That day that they are put into this certain category, we can do a number of things. We can move them into a destination category, we can remove them from a category, or we can copy them into another category as well. So what this means is basically we used to have the ability in my desktop to set rules in our database that once a contact was put into the current buyers category, let's say, because I know a lot of our network does use the current buyers category, you might set a trigger up that, you know, 3 months or 6 months after the contact is first put into that category, it then moves into another category called past buyers or something like that, so that you're keeping the people in that category fresh. So that can be used across all categories. You can now set those rules up. In a similar fashion, you've got X days after a contact was last modified. So once it was last put into or modified in a particular category, you can again do those different things, move them around in categories. So that's a really cool one. We've had a lot of feedback from our network wanting to set those rules up that they had available over in my desktop. So this should give you that ability to be able to create those now as well. The last thing I really quickly wanted to talk about and highlight, mostly because our network has been talking about this quite a lot, I know I've heard a lot about it from my offices, is the ability for the agent transfer to happen. So this happens a bit within our offices where we have multi-office situations and an agent might move from one office to another, and the ability for that agent's data to be moved from one account to another. So that typically happens obviously where we've got the same ownership structure across both of the databases. And we can now do that. So we have moved to the stage where we finally managed to get all of the testing done for that. If you do wish to do, my apologies, if you do wish to do an agent transfer, if it's something that you've been waiting for, I would suggest reaching out to your local digital BDE, and they'll be able to provide you with the forms to get that process underway for you. Amazing. So what I'm going to do now is share my phone screen, and we're going to jump in and have a look at some of the latest. I'm going to just have a look at some of the latest. Beautiful, sorry, just get that up. There we go. Apologies, everyone. There we go. We're up and running. So just sharing now some of the latest Vault updates within the app. So I'll be using the iOS version today, but most of these releases, or all of these releases, I should be saying, are available over in the Android version as well. So I'm just, sorry, jumping out. I was in a property earlier. I will jump into that property in a moment to demo some things, but on the dashboard, just wanting to very quickly point out, this one was an update that did come out last month, but just in case anyone hasn't noticed it yet, or potentially hasn't turned it on, you now do have your holding area available on your dashboard. If you're not seeing that, those two little arrows at the top that I just clicked on will give you your dashboard here. You can rearrange and make sure you obviously turn your holding area on there as well. So obviously if you have this and you can't see the holding area, we just need to toggle it on, and you can pick it up by hovering on the three lines and moving it around so you can see it on your screen like so. So that's a new feature, and obviously we can process people in the holding area into our database from here. So this is where our website inquiry, or like you can see there, QR check-ins will land in this area and we need to process them. Just reminding everyone that when we do go to process an inquiry out of this holding area, if it is a QR code check-in, you should be using the check-in add feedback button that I'm highlighting in gray there now on the screen. And I'll just jump out of that very quickly. Alternatively, if it's a web inquiry, you'll use the process inquiry button in red down the bottom. So you have those options available there for you now as well. Beautiful. So we've got 3 quick updates to work through in the app for today's session so that you can stay up to date with what's happening. The first one is when we go into a property and we're in the check-in and add feedback area, and you might have noticed that it's starting to pull through more and more detail off of the property now as well. So obviously just reminding everybody that if you're putting tenancy details in the desktop system, you'll see the tenanted option there. You'll obviously see your auction details if they're populated in the system. And also down the bottom, you will see your owners, your purchasers, and your tenants there as well. So just reminding everyone that you do have the tenancy details option on the property page in the desktop. And when you populate that, it all feeds through in the phone, which is very handy. So as I was saying, jumping into my check-in and add feedback screen, we have some new sort by filters at the top. So you've got your new to old sort there, which is fine. But that's been around for a little while, but just wanting to point out, you can now sort by feedback note types. So if you do not wish to see your website inquiries and other things in here, you just want to see maybe your open home inspection feedback and potentially your private inspection feedback. If you select those two, you can then also set this as default across all properties. And that means whenever we're now jumping into that section on any property, those are the only note types we're going to see. So just that's a new thing that you can do now. We know that some people loved having the website inquiry sitting in this area and some people hated it. So definitely to cater to those people that found having website inquiry there a bit more frustrating, you can now jump in and select this and set it as default across all properties. And now it should just narrow it down just to purely your open home inspection feedback like so. You can also change your date range up. I would not suggest setting this as default because it's going to default it across all properties, but just giving you the option now that you can push the feedback date range in and out. So this will allow you to capture older feedback as well. So this will be particularly useful for any properties that settled in my desktop that have migrated over into the Vault world. If you're going in there to pick up the past inquiry off of that property, you can now move that feedback date range back to capture that previous inquiry. If, however, reminding everyone, only because I've just spoken about that, if the property has settled since you've migrated to Vault, if you're wanting to capture past inquiry data, what you're instead going to do is go into your menu section here and view previous feedback. You'll then select the settlement life that you can see down the bottom here, and that will then populate for you that past data, and then you can choose to communicate with it from there. So that's just a few more refining options for your note types in the check-in area. Next thing I'm going to talk about is what we were talking about over in the desktop version with the contracts. So now when I am checking people in, and we've been talking about this for a little while when we're teaching everyone to process their open home and feedback and things like that, that when we're doing our callbacks, we can use this button down the bottom here, contract requested, if we turn that on to say that that person wants a copy of the contract. When that's saved, you can see the little button appearing there to the right of Marilyn's name saying that she's requested a contract. At the end of the open home, what we can then do is use our select button and just untick anybody that hasn't requested the contract and use the bulk email option to send them a copy of the contract. The extra step, not the extra step, it's actually eliminating a step now, but the extra feature that has now been released is if I press this bulk email button and I go to my attached files section here, it will actually, you can see that little contract badge that's appeared next to the property guide PDF one that I'm now highlighting on the screen. So when I actually select that one, when I jump back to the screen and press this done button, you'll see that the contract requested, markers contract sent button has automatically been ticked. So that is also available there. Another really great new release is the apply email stationery button that you're seeing here as well. So we were having issues where emails that were sent from the phone app but through VaultRE were not applying your email stationery or your email signature. This button now allows that to happen. So two really cool little releases here that will definitely be of benefit if we're doing the bulk emailing out of the system from here as well. So just pointing those two options out. The final thing that I did want to show you today, and it's actually not new. It's our second time around releasing this, but we've had a bit more success this time, and everyone really fell in love with it the first time around. But unfortunately, there were some bugs and glitches happening in the back end. Was the market snapshot feature. So what this talks about is when we're making a call to a client, if I jump into a contact card here and I press my call button, what will happen, I'm actually not going to use this contact, my apologies, because it will end our session here and I'm trying to keep us all on the call. So I'm just going to use another contact. Here we go. This is perfect. So if I press my call button here, once I make that call, if I place that call down the button and then hang up, you would remember we were getting the pop-up to say, would you like to create a note? That's essentially what is happening here. It's automatically creating the note for you. So then to edit the note, all you're doing is pressing that edit contact note. We can still remember to use our little microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner to dictate the message out and it will pick that up. Nothing's really changing there for me right now. What you will see, however, is the ability to automatically send a market snapshot to that person. So that's automatically toggled on. Obviously, if you don't want to send the market snapshot, you simply toggle it off. But if you want to send, so you've just had a conversation with someone and you have been talking about the market, which is generally how conversations go in real estate, and we want to send a market snapshot out to that person, what we would do is if they are attached to a property, you would automatically see the suburbs appearing where it says search suburbs there. Alternatively, this means I haven't actually attached this contact to a property. So what I'm going to do is just press the search suburbs button here and pop a suburb in like so. I can then press save and it's sending that snapshot out for me. Now, when you do this for the first time, you will see what I'm seeing on my screen now, where you do need to authenticate with Outfit. So just make sure you jump in and follow the prompts like what I'm doing right now. And you'll see that that will happen. So you just do need to authenticate with Outfit for the first time. Make sure you do allow the access. And you'll see that that has happened. So there we go. We can see that the market snapshot's been requested. And what will happen then is the email will go to that contact, and it will also send an email to you to let you know that that market snapshot has been sent. So those are all of the updates that I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. We will be running these monthly to just update you on the latest things that have been happening in the product and features that you might want to look at that they might have been there for a while, but you may not be aware of. So please do join us again next month. If you do have any questions about anything you've seen today, please do reach out to your local digital BDE. And as always, jump into Vault, jump into the Vault Hub and have a look around. There's lots of how-tos in there. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful Monday, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.